This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. Our first guest today is Suzanne Bates, CEO of Bates Communication, author of 4 books, the most recent being All the Leader You Can Be. Welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Thanks, Bob. Good to be with you guys.
So I'm so excited to have Suzanne on our show today because I've read all of her books. I'm a huge follower of Suzanne's work. She is the CEO of Bates, a firm founded in 2000 with a mission today to help leaders influence the world. Her firm is distinguished in the field of leadership development for its groundbreaking research and practical approach to helping leaders make an impact. Many of us in Boston know her best from her successful career as a television journalist in major markets. She was in Boston, Philadelphia, Tampa, St. Petersburg. In 2005, she published her first book, Speak Like a CEO, Secrets of Commanding Attention and Getting Results, which went to number 6 on the bestseller charts on Amazon and is now published in 7 languages. She has since published 3 other books, Motivate Like a CEO, Communicate Your Strategic Vision and Inspire People to Act, Discover Your CEO Brand, Secrets for Embracing and Maximizing Your Unique Value as a Leader, and her latest book, All the Leader You Could Be, The Science of Achieving Extraordinary Executive Presence. So, very excited to have you. First off, since your background is in helping develop great leaders, what are the qualities of a great leader?
The qualities of leadership that we admire, Stacy, have changed over the years. You know, all of us are aware that organizations are changing, that because of the millennials and because of Gen X, there's more of an emphasis on being less hierarchical. And that means that leaders have to understand how to influence, how to engage people, how to align them around a common purpose and get people excited and motivated. And so when recognizing this, what we did in looking at the science of executive presence is we did a big research project. We looked at research from all kinds of areas, from leadership and management to communication theory and social action theory, and we even looked at psychology and ethics. And what we saw there in that work was evidence that there are 15 qualities that make leaders really good at engaging and aligning and inspiring other people. So that's the aspect of leadership that I'm trying to share with leaders from around the world with the new book. And just to give you a preview, because I don't want to march through all 15, but there's 15 qualities, and they're in categories, and the categories are character, substance, and style. So an example of a character quality that's really important to leaders is integrity, right? We all know how important it is to act with fidelity to our values and to uphold moral standards, right? That's critical to winning trust.
Right.
And an example of substance is practical wisdom, which we define as having insight, right, and being able to help others gain insight, maybe by asking good questions and kind of getting to the heart of the matter. And an example of style is interactivity, which is the way we talk to one another. It's kind of a less, again, hierarchical, more conversational, kind of timely exchange of information and coordination of action. So those are the kind of qualities that we've captured in the executive presence model.
So do you have advice for leaders? Because out of 15 qualities of a successful leader, probably the average person they don't excel at all 15 of those qualities. What can someone do if they're just simply not strong at a handful of the most important qualities?
Well, we suggest that leaders go through an assessment. We have an assessment called the Bates XPI, which measures how other people view you. So what we're really looking at is perceptions of your behaviors. How do people perceive your actions and your words? You don't have to take the assessment, though, to get the gist of it. And so if you go, you just go to the website, when the program's over, go to alltheleaderbook.com, and you'll be able to see the model with the 15 qualities. And what I suggest that people do is just take a look there and ask yourself, take a look at the substance category, for example, and ask yourself, what would people consider to be my towering strength? Would it be practical wisdom, or would it be confidence, or composure, or resonance, or vision? Because, you may be right, you may be wrong, but you probably have a pretty good idea what people consider to be your strengths and also your gaps.
Right.
So you need to look at that, with an honest eye, and perhaps even get a trusted advisor to reflect on these and tell you, how they see you as a leader.
Right. Wow. Interesting stuff. Now, I know that I love the idea of the Bates model of executive presence. I know when I had met you 2 years ago, I was enthralled with this whole idea of being able to, basically your firm helps people by really understanding the strengths and weaknesses after somebody goes through that assessment tool. My question is, do you find that there are major differences between male and female leaders?
We have been tracking demographics from the historical data from the assessments, and we have really noticed some kind of surprising and I think important trends and some of them really buck conventional wisdom about why women are getting ahead or not. And, the reason that I think, what's behind your question, the reason that question's important is because globally, women in senior roles remains at about 24%, which is about what it was, almost 10 years ago. And, we all know the statistics that women are almost half the labor force and almost half of the college-educated workforce, but they're still only about 5% of the CEOs and 15% of executives overall. So what we noticed, the differences are really interesting when you consider that. Because out of the 15 qualities of presence, women actually come out on average, now we're just averaging the data, but they come out on average stronger than men in 7 of the 15 qualities of executive presence, whereas men come out stronger in 1. So what does that mean? What does that tell us about, women's prospects for, moving into the C-suite or moving ahead or, as CEOs of their own businesses being very, very successful? I think a lot of the qualities that women maybe a little more naturally bring to bear in the workplace are highly valued. They're valued, we found, in doing things like driving change or leading innovation or engaging others, because they tend to be a little stronger in social emotional qualities like concern, which is, just the ability to demonstrate interest in other people, or resonance, which is just being able to connect with people, being tuned in, being able to read the room. So those are really important qualities. And I think, where I come down on all this is I think it bodes very well for women moving forward and getting into more positions in the senior ranks.
So it sounds like it doesn't bode well for me, though.
No, but listen, the one that men rank higher on is restraint. And just as myself as a female business leader, I think my biggest weakness is I get emotional and I cannot restrain myself from opening my mouth. I think
really
it makes sense that men rank higher in
that area.
In that one area, but it's so important that I could see how it could be detrimental in some ways to a female's career.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bob, to your point, why is this? First of all, these are averages. So, it could, in individuals, it could be the opposite. You could be the one who's less restrained, and Stacy could be the one who is, more in control of her emotions in the workplace.
Oh, she's definitely less restrained than me.
Yeah, we know it's not that way, but it could be. So we're all different is my point. But, here's what I've learned, or one of my theories, I'll say, about guys. And you can confirm this for me, Bob, or not. I think that boys from an early age learn how to pick their battles, and that's self-protection, because it's fight or flight. They know when they go into a battle, they're going to get a bloody nose or not. So they choose their moments. Women tend to be, and again, this is a generalization, it wouldn't fit every woman listening today, but they tend to be more out there, or it's, another quality of executive presence is authenticity, which is being real, being transparent, being sincere, being kind of out there with your emotions. And so what we're really talking about here is striking a balance, Stacy. It's fine to show emotion. Restraint is an absence of emotion. That's not what we're looking for. But we don't want to be controlled by our emotions. We don't want to seem unreasonable or impulsive or extreme, because when we do, what happens is we're not creating a safe place for others, and they tend to trust us less if we overshare our emotions or wear our expressions on our face, nodding, shaking our heads no and frowning in a meeting. It's really not the way to be the most effective leader. You have to learn to verbalize your emotions instead and say, here's why I'm concerned about that, or I've been listening to this and I'm wondering why we're taking this approach. In other words, put words to your feelings or your concerns, and that will prevent you from seeming like your emotions are managing you. And all these things are really important to building trust. So a lot of guys who maybe are more restrained have to learn to show their emotions more. Some women need to learn to show them less. But it's all in the service of being the most effective leader you can be. And the good news is that we're talking about is behaviors. So we can modify our behaviors to become more effective.
So basically finding the middle ground between the two could make you an outstanding executive.
That's exactly right. And there are such things, Bob, as overstrength. So you can rely too much, even on a good quality like authenticity. And, you can have the belief that, I just need to be out there. People need to know exactly what I think. Well, yes, to a point, but sometimes not. And that's why I think it's so important as leaders for us to get feedback. And, I just want to speak to the people in the audience who either are out there face-to-face with clients every day, maybe in a sales role, or people who are running their own businesses. It's very hard for you to get feedback. You're out there on your own, or you're at the top of your organization, and I speak from experience. I started my own company 16 years ago, and I know that people don't always tell me the truth, and that's why it's important, I think, to have the benefit, and it doesn't have to be the XPI, but to have the benefit of assessment, of working with a coach, of having other people around you, trusted advisors who tell you the truth in real time about how people are perceiving your leadership. There's no way to become a better leader unless you really understand the impact that you're having on other people, even if what you did was well-intentioned.
Amazing stuff. Now, we only have about 4 minutes left, and I'm going to preface this, Bob, by saying we're not asking anybody for their political views, because everybody knows your political views.
That was Stacy telling me not to share my political views.
But I was wondering, Suzanne, if you could give us, maybe point out, just from the upcoming presidential election, what are some leadership qualities that both candidates have or lack?
There are a few qualities that have really come into play during this election, and the candidates have traded roles at many times in how others perceive them. I was saying for a while that I thought this election was going to be about substance. The qualities like vision, which is, the ability to kind of generate a picture of what America could be, and practical wisdom, again, that ability to highlight what are the key issues for the country. And both candidates have had their moments on vision and practical wisdom. Whether you like either one, they both have their own vision of America, and they both have a different kind of wisdom, I'll say. Where they're both struggling is in the character realm of executive presence. I mentioned integrity, which is upholding moral standards, and that's really what's playing out right now in the election. And I think what's really turning people off, this is again about trust. And we don't trust either the candidates because of the way we're assessing their integrity. Restraint has been an interesting, differentiator of the two candidates because Trump is so out there, and Clinton is so in control of her emotions.
Right.
Humility has come into play as well, especially in judgments about Trump. But there's a lot to talk about here. So I don't know in the end what's going to happen. Who will be elected? I'm not sure that the polls are accurate necessarily, but I do know that the American people are disillusioned primarily because they're looking at the candidates and they're not seeing the qualities of substance and character that they would hope to have in a president.
And I have a question for you, and you don't have to answer it because I'm not going to put you on the spot. But my particular feeling, and I'd like to see if you agree, is that it's not just about presidential politics anymore. I mean, I think everybody's more or less disillusioned with all politicians, regardless which side of the aisle you're on, because they all seem to lack those leadership qualities.
I agree with you, and it's the deterioration of political discourse and standards, I think, has brought that on. And I think in part one of the reasons that people are disillusioned with all of our, at least national leaders, is because those national leaders have not known how to respond in a time like this when it appears that people are willing to overlook these aspects of character that in the past have been so important, such a deciding factor in elections. So they don't know how to behave, and they don't know how to act. They want to be, I think many of them have tried to be true to their own standards, but it's a very difficult time to negotiate for both parties. I don't think it's just for the Republicans. I think that Democrats also have had to set aside what they view as the standard they'd like to see in their candidate. And it does make me wonder, and I'm sure you guys too, what's going to happen, what the discussion is going to be in the aftermath of this election in both parties about where we go from here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
So we have had with us today Suzanne Bates. Make sure you check out her new book at alltheleaderbook.com. Again, her new book is All the Leader You Can Be, The Science of Achieving Extraordinary Executive Presence. And while you're on Amazon, I'm telling you, I've read all of her books. Big fan of Suzanne Bates. So while you're on Amazon, just buy all the books. You might as well. Speak Like a CEO, Motivate Like a CEO, Discover Your CEO Brand, and her newest book, All the Leader You Can Be. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us today.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Thanks to you both, and best wishes. You have a great show, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on today. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.